It is lights out and we are racing in MotoGP here in Assen, and just as he did in the sprint yesterday, Bagnaia has nailed the start on the factory Ducati, just where he wanted to be. Vinales drops across Martin in second place. Huge crash for Alex Rins further down the back of the field. He looks like he lost the rear going into the first corner. Jorge Martin quickly on the move up from 5th to 3rd place.
Yeah, then it's the Marquez brothers. Alex is still ahead of Marc, and then Fabio Di Giannantonio and Frankie Morbidelli going side by side as Marc Marquez goes up the inside of his brother Alex. Marc now up into 4th place.
I'm praying that Alex Rins is okay, of course. He's had a nightmare 18 months through injury. That serious double right leg fracture he suffered in the sprint in Mugello, still suffering big time, 12 months later. So Bagnaia, just as he did yesterday, Martin on the inside of Maverick Vinales going through Steckenval. That's at turn 8, they go side by side now, the two Spaniards, almost elbow to elbow. Martin comes out the better of it as they attack now into turn 9.
Now closing in and going past Maverick Vinales, who left the door wide open, and an 8-time world champion is more than happy to climb through it.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy, wasn't that for Marc Marquez, just lifting up Vinales, nothing the Aprilia rider could do about that. Marquez with a bit of a head shake then as they attack now through turn 6 and 7. This is in qualifying yesterday. Marquez bit the dust as he attacked to latest Fargo. Now through Steckenval we go, top end of the circuit. Yeah, on board with Vinales, trailing Marquez.
Yeah, Pedro Acosta's making good progress there as he's pulling out alongside Alex Marquez. He doesn't look like to look under control there, but he is through on Alex Marquez. Already a way better Grand Prix than it was a sprint for Pedro Acosta, who never made any kind of forward progress. He's up into the top 6. Marco Bezzecchi, who's gone down. He spent as much time in the gravel trap, it feels, than the racetrack. And it's a kind of fitting end, unfortunately, to a Dutch TT to forget for Marco Bezzecchi.
Yeah, second time he's bit the dust as well at turn 5. He's going to remount, but that is the unwanted hat-trick. There's smoke pouring out the exhaust there as well, isn't there? Just losing the front, trail braking into that first gear, turn 5. It's been the understeer, hasn't it? New tyres pushing the front has been Marco Bezzecchi's major headache so far this season. Was that the cause, once again, of yet another tip-off for Marco Bezzecchi? What a difference a year makes. Pole here last year, sprint winner, second in the Grand Prix. That was his 3rd crash, and potentially leaving Assen after such a successful weekend here last year, empty-handed.
Confirmation from Michelin, Pecco Bagnaia is on the hard front tyre. Here comes Fabio Di Giannantonio up the inside of Pedro Acosta and back into the 5th place that, well, he initially finished the sprint yesterday. Acosta's going to try and fight back, but he's not going to be able to get that one back from Di Giannantonio. Fastest lap of the race to Jorge Martin, taking a big bite out of Bagnaia's lead on that last lap. He cut 2/10 out of the lead, it's now down to 0.6.
Marco Bezzecchi's decided to call it a day. Horrible weekend here in Assen as Di Giannantonio coming from a long way back, but he's made it through. Di Giannantonio, what a race this has been so far for the Italian here in Assen. Maverick Vinales tries to fight back, but there's nothing he can do. The grunt of the Ducati out of the Timmy game was just too hot for him to handle. Di Giannantonio then here now, right on course for Marc Marquez in the battle for 3rd.
Bastianini's hoping to make the same kind of rapid late progress that he made yesterday. He can't lead this too late. We're coming up to 1/3 distance in this Grand Prix as we see the battle behind. Marc Marquez has dropped behind Fabio Di Giannantonio somewhere on this lap, and Maverick Vinales may be about to add further pain to the 8-time world champion. Di Giannantonio is already disappearing.
Yeah, now what's happened here to Marc Marquez, and did he make a mistake on this lap 8 of 26? I mean, it looked like he was coming under big threat, under big pressure from Di Giannantonio, who's had the superior speed for the last 3 or 4 laps compared to Marquez. Let's just track them over the line we go now.
He was 4/10 ahead of him going into the 3rd sector and then lost 7/10 somewhere.
Yeah, he's made a mistake,
in that 3rd sector. He must have gone wide, perhaps at DeBolt somewhere in that 3rd sector. A 1:33.2 for Marc Marquez. He lost a second to the race leader, and he lost 3rd place to Di Giannantonio.
Yeah, those two had a close skirmish together in Le Mans, didn't they? Didn't really cheer Marc Marquez up. He said they were battling at the complete wrong point of that Grand Prix, and he felt like it probably cost him the chance to fight at the end of that race for Jorge Martin and the win. But Di Giannantonio looking so good. 3rd place on course for his first podium with the Pertamina Enduro VR46 racing team. He's going to have to work mighty hard to keep it with Marc Marquez behind. Let's find out then what happened to Marquez. We're on board with the Gresini rider. It's a good long look over his left shoulder. Now he is going into turn 9. This is DeBolt, the left-hander.
does he think he had to drop a player? It's very strange for him to be looking by. What reason would he have to look behind himself there, Marc Marquez? Coming through Steckenbach, that almost seemed like he gave the place up to Fabio Di Giannantonio, but it certainly didn't. So we had nothing on our timing screens to suggest that Marc Marquez had to drop a spot.
And like Simon's just told us, he actually pointed and told Fabio Di Giannantonio exactly where he wanted him to make the move. So yeah, that bizarre in the extreme there for Marc Marquez. His Saturday started bizarrely when he went out on circuit in FP2 without his knee sliders. And now another rather sort of perplexing issue for the 8 times world champion. Be really interesting actually to see what he makes of that post-race, because whatever happened, it cost him 3rd place at this
stage
of the race.
With his personal best lap of the race, a 1:32.466, which was slightly slower than Digia, but he's going with him. Bagnaia back into the low 32s as every time Martin creeps a couple of attempts closer, Pecco Bagnaia just responds once again and just ekes that lead back out once again.
Into turn 5 he goes, He was coming through regardless there, wasn't he? Enea Bastianini, so finally picks his way through on Acosta. They pick up the drive grip, the fading drive grip then outside of the Struben hairpin. And now right in this battle of a 3rd place as the Giannantonio runs slightly.
They almost tripped over the back of each other. Maverick Viñales says, OK, if you're going to watch each other, I'll move through into 3rd position. And Enea Bastianini now crawling over the back of them. Bizarre action into the vault.
I almost thought that there was some rain spots potentially falling, because it all got really chaotic, really messy, didn't it? Going through the vault and coming out of it all. Di Giannantonio back in 5th, and now Maverick Viñales up into 3rd place.
Marc Marquez now all over the back of top going into the Gertzimet chicane. Viñales closing off the inside line. Look how quickly though, and Bastianini, even before they started playing fun and games at the vault, Bastianini was already all over them, and he's now at the inside of Fabio Di Giannantonio. This could well be the easiest podium Bastianini's taken in quite some time, as they were all looking at each other and getting time up, and Bastianini is now caught and passed at Fabio Di Giannantonio. That is 5th position.
And all of a sudden, looking like that GP23 Ducati underneath Digia was on rails, it looks all of a sudden like a very nervous motorcycle as he's potentially running out of grip here late on. There he sweeps through turn 5.
Marquez now got Acosta right behind him, so of course with all of that going on, it's Marquez of course ahead of Bastianini, then it's Pedro Acosta, and Bastianini might not be behind the 93 for very long. He's having a look at the inside into the Gertzimet chicane, but Marc Marquez breaks late enough.
Yeah, I thought I could hear Bike's woman come pit lane as a potential flag-to-flag scenario on the horizon, is it? It's the KTMs that are being warmed up in pit lane as Bastianini comes on the inside, and Marc Marquez, they rub bearings, they rub shoulders, and Marc Marquez has come out far the worst of that little exchange. Bastianini then showing some proper beast aggression. Beast modes engaged, and some. The beast then now up into P4.
Well, Fabio Di Giannantonio and Marc Marquez, who've been swapping positions sometimes voluntarily. That one certainly wasn't. Di Giannantonio now takes Marc Marquez for 5th place. It's been a terrible start to this lap for the 93, who's trying to fight straight back. And at the fastest corner of the racetrack, he sends Fabio Di Giannantonio almost into the car park. Yeah,
and Acosta says thank you very much. Acosta then now sweeps back on through. What a weekend this has been for Pecco Bagnaia. We will head to the Saxon Ring next weekend for the German Grand Prix. Head of a 3-week summer break, just 10 points, splitting the top 2 in the standings. Viñales trying to stop another all Ducati podium here in Assen. Ducati dominant in MotoGP, and they're dominant once again here in Assen as right on cue. Bastianini flings the factory Duke on the inside of Maverick Viñales, and the beast, as low as 10th he was in those first 2 or 3 laps, with what 4 laps to go, has found himself on the podium once again. He has just unbelievable late race speed, doesn't he, the Italian?
This is right according to the Enea Bastianini form book. This at the end of the race, he's often the rider who has the superior grip, the superior performance at the end of the Grand Prix. Bagnaia's lead came down by 0.3 of a second on that last lap, but with just 4 to go, a 1.6 second lead should be comfortable enough. This was the battle between the beast and Marc Marquez, and Enea Bastianini giving Marc Marquez a helpful shove onto the runoff at turn 1.
The good thing about that is I know Marquez just won't complain about that. He'll say, well, that's just good old-fashioned, proper, hardcore, hard racing. As we pick up the race leader, we haven't seen him for a while while we've been focusing on that intense battle for the podium, raging between Bastianini, Viñales, Marquez, Di Giannantonio and Acosta. This is the battle for the final place on the podium, well and truly in the hands of Bastianini. He's got half a second nearly back to Vinales, who's clinging on to that 4th place. Marquez there in 5th, the Gianantonio in 6th place. Pedro Acosta has dropped right off this battle. You'll just see him coming through turn 4 now. Acosta in 7th, Binder 8th, Alex Marquez and Ralph Fernandez your top 10.
The question I'd love to get answered at the end of this race, which only can be answered by Marc Marquez and I guess Fabio Di Giannantonio, is what was going on midway through the race. Those 2 incidents at the pole. First when Marc waved Di Giannantonio through, and then when Di Giannantonio and Marc Marquez nearly tripped over each other, allowing Vinales to go past the pair of them in the end.
I think Acosta's gone down. I'm pretty sure Pedro Acosta's gone down.
Yeah, yellow's out.
Yeah, top of the picture there, Pedro Acosta going through the fast turn 7. Yeah, he was right at the top of the picture, and Pedro Acosta, that's a fast one. We've seen a few hefty crashes, haven't we, going through turn 7, and Acosta dumps it on the final lap here. A lonely 7th place for him then, goes through his fingers. Let's hope he's okay, because that was a real fast get-off, wasn't it, for Acosta? But here then comes reigning world champion Pecco Bagnaia, who has reigned supreme once again here in Assen. It's more Dutch delight, it's more Dutch dominance for Pecco Bagnaia as he wins the Dutch TT in 2024. Jorge Martin takes 2nd place, and Enea Bastianini comes through from 10th to the podium. They could name a corner after Pecco Bagnaia here in Assen, couldn't they? Because this is his domain. This is his territory. What a performance. What a weekend by Pecco Bagnaia. Big shake of the head there from Maverick Vinales. What happened to him on the last lap?
He's wide on the way into Ramshoek. Marc Marquez didn't have to work too hard for that one at all. Vinales did at least take Di Giannantonio into the final chicane, but Vinales, you could see from the body language, he wasn't too happy, and that is why.
But it was brilliant, Bagnaia, once again, wasn't it? How on earth do you beat Pecco Bagnaia in Assen?
You don't.
No, you don't.
At the moment.
Yeah, you don't.
Your race winner, elevated up onto the podium, your world champion, Pecco Bagnaia. He smoked them this afternoon, didn't he? On board the motorcycle that is the reference in MotoGP. A spectacular arrival onto the podium for a spectacular MotoGP world champion. The king of the cathedral, once again, for the 5th time in his career and the 3rd in MotoGP, is Pecco Bagnaia.
If you can't get enough MotoGP, click here to subscribe.